Welcome to the We Shine Well podcast, where I have real conversations with thought leaders in wellness to help you live your most vibrant, aligned, and purposeful life. I'm your host, Zoe Kelsey, founder of We Shine Well. Here, we share honest stories, gems of wisdom, and insight to spark clarity and guide your next right step, so you can shine brighter from the inside out. Now let's dive in. Today's conversation feels really special. I'm sitting down with one of my dear friends, Karin Hadadan, and this conversation truly feels like our daily voice notes made public. Karin is an author, writer, and entrepreneur whose work centers around faith, God, and transformation, and the courage to choose yourself. She has a way of putting words to the quiet places in our hearts, the places where belief, doubt, longing, and trust all coexist. In this conversation, we're talking about how we change and yet somehow remain who we've always been, about following the breadcrumbs of life, embodiment, devotion, and the deep remembering that happens when we stop striving and start listening. If you're in an in-between or in a season of expansion, this episode is for you. Let's dive in. I'm so excited for our conversation today. I feel like we voice note all of the time, and this is just going to be our voice notes coming to life. I have questions, but we probably aren't even going to use them. So I just want to start off by asking you, how did you get to where you are today? Just based on I already know, but for our audience, how'd you get to where you are in life, in writing, discovering that was your gift, and even how you move through life and your beautiful train of thought?
Oh my gosh. I'm like, where do I begin? Okay, I'm going to try to tell this story in a really succinct way, and we can poke holes in any of it. Let's go back to the beginning when I was a little girl. I wanted to be a star. Like, I wanted to be I was a dancer. I loved doing plays. I loved being on a stage. I loved using my voice. Whenever it would be my birthday or holiday and I would get a gift and it would be clothes, I would run to my room, put on the outfit, and then do a fashion show for my family. I loved helping people. I loved anything with the arts. I was such a creative little girl. Like, art class was, I would always win awards when we would have those like art ceremonies or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was an artist. I was a creative. I was a performer at heart. And my dream was just to be some form of a star.
Mm-hmm.
And so God was like, okay, ask and you shall receive. So what happened is I suffered with chronic illness. I'm laughing. It's not funny, but I suffered with chronic illness, started in my late teens. Gut issues, hormonal imbalances, full body, just inflammation. Ended up getting diagnosed with endometriosis in my mid-20s. And so it was like, that was my dream. I got sick. When I was a teenager, I started to discover my gift and passion for writing and storytelling. So I started to write poetry when I was a teenager. I also tried a lot of entrepreneurial ventures when I was in high school and in college, a fashion blog, a t-shirt brand. So I was kind of just figuring out, like, how do I want to express myself? And then it wasn't until COVID where I was starting to get really sick. It wasn't just like IBS or bloating. It was like full body inflammation, and I was anemic. I was having really painful periods. I had cystic acne. It was everything. And that's really when I started to dive headfirst into the world of mindfulness and spirituality. And I started to dabble in it a little bit when I was in college in my early 20s, but it wasn't until COVID where that's when I started to really get into meditation and prayer and, morning affirmations. And I read Eckhart Tolle and Joe Dispenza and all those different mystics and healers. And that's when I created my Instagram page. And at first it was going to just be a mood board, a creative outlet. And it slowly began a space where I started to share my own words that were really focused on mindfulness, and being present and enjoying life, how to find more, gratitude in your daily life. And I kind of was throwing spaghetti at the wall and just kind of seeing what would stick.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was in 2023 when I was diagnosed with endometriosis. And that was when I had my first spiritual awakening, because after I got my surgery to remove the endometriosis, which I thought was the answer to all my prayers, I found myself at another rock bottom where all of my symptoms came back. And that's when I was like, I think something, I'm making myself sick from my beliefs and my thoughts. That's when I really went on that inner journey. And that was kind of how my work itself evolved. I mean, 2, 3 years ago, I wasn't really writing about God and consciousness and spiritual awakening and the divine essence and all those things. That journey kind of led me here today, which is really about how you're the co-creator of your reality, how to live from your soul, how to return back to that essence of your authenticity and your wholeness and to live from that vibration, and how to really create the life that you in your heart, in your soul came here to live. So it's funny because something I really do believe is that our suffering is really the portal towards realizing that soul's dream that we had when we were kids before we learned to doubt it. Now, if someone told me when I was 16, okay, you want to be a star and you want to use your voice and help people, well, here is the path. You're going to get sick and you're going to have dark nights of the soul every day and yada, yada, yada. I would be like, oh my God, no, I don't want that. I'll have a corporate job. It's fine. So and here's the thing, you could only see that full picture in hindsight, but when I was in that deep suffering stages in my 20s, I'm 29 now, but in my mid to early 20s, I always knew in my heart that I wasn't going through all of that deep, deep pain. I mean, there was a day where I called my mom, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I can't, this isn't life to me, waking up every day, fearing the day and just surviving and feeling in pain. I just knew in my heart that there was a higher, deeper purpose. And that's when I really learned to depend on God. And it brought me to this really beautiful, magical moment in time, sitting in front of you.
Well, and it's just powerful too, because you talk about how, like, even when you were young, you knew you were bound to be a star in a way. And it's like all of this outside noise and like chaos and overwhelm that we kind of store in our bodies and our minds, our upbringing that we ingrain in ourselves. So, like, can you walk us through and help us better understand, like, what was this spiritual awakening like for you, and how has it shifted, like, how you live in your mindset today?
For me, there was a lot of different stages. I would say before my surgery, I'd already been doing the basics, right? I've been meditating every single day, 35 minutes, Joe Dispenza, for the past 6.5 years. So that was a foundation I had. I've always been into gratitude journaling, doing the morning pages. So I already had a really beautiful foundation where I would start my day connecting with my soul. After my surgery, when all of the physical pain and symptoms came back, despite not having the disease itself, I would follow my intuitive nudges. And one day I found myself at a yoga studio in Soho in New York, and I just signed up to a breathwork class. And I'd never done breathwork before in that way. I've done like headspace and, those types of things. And I do a little bit of breathing when I meditate, but I'd never done like a full holotropic breathwork journey. And it was in that journey where I finally released the beginning of the tip of the iceberg of all of those stored emotions from all of the traumas that I never digested in my life. Now, it was big T trauma and it was little T trauma. It was things that my parents said that in hindsight, like, weren't a big deal, but for a child, I developed a story because of it that I'm too much. I saw visions of moments in my life that I didn't even remember happened that were very traumatic. And that was when I screamed, I cried, I started to open the valve to release the emotions, because I've always been a very intellectual thinker, but I never was a somatic feeler. Like, I would talk my way out of my emotions instead of actually feeling the anger or the sadness or so forth. And I think writing, in hindsight, was my way of feeling my emotions without physically feeling them. Like it was my release. And that's why it's such a gift to me, not just my gift, but it's a gift to me. So when I started after that breathwork journey, I realized how profound it was. And so for months, I started doing these breathwork journeys 4 to 5 times a week. A friend of mine was a healing coach. She had her online library. So I would come home from work and I would spend an hour and a half on a Tuesday night before dinner breathing and releasing. And that really opened the valve for me to feel and kind of release that. That only got me so far though, because it wasn't helping me rewire those stories or those beliefs. I
4 to 5 times a week, you were really letting that shit go.
Oh my God. And here's the funny part. I remember many months into it, like maybe like 3, 4 months into it, I remember like one day I did a breathwork journey and nothing happened. Like I didn't cry, I didn't have any profound visions. And I got up and I was like, I just wasted an hour and a half to just breathe and like nothing happened. Like there's no way that I need to be doing this. Like I started to realize like I can't picture myself in 7 years from now having kids needing to do breathwork journeys 5 times a week. So then I kind of that was like, okay, I'm overdoing this. Like this isn't I'm kind of losing the magic of it because now I'm forcing the release. I'm forcing the download. And so that made me it was a tool that I brought into my toolkit, but that helped me kind of discover, okay, this served me in a beautiful way, but it's not fully serving me now. What else can I explore? And that was kind of when over time I got into To Be Magnetic, which is a manifestation program, but it's really a program to rewire your subconscious belief system. And that is a lot of journaling, a lot of hypnosis, different workshops. You do it, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And that was when I started to not just process and feel the emotions, but start to rewrite the stories and rewrite the belief system behind those. So the I'm too much, the I'm not good enough, the fear of being seen start over time after a year and a half of doing that work and also aligning to meet the right healers and teachers that can kind of mentor me to that remembrance, to that wholeness. Brooke, for example, the I'm too much kind of transformed into I've never been too much and I'm always enough because I am an expression of the divine source. How can I ever be too much? I'm an expression of love. Love is infinite, right? So then my I am statement went from I'm too much to I am me, and me is all of that, right? So it took a lot of time, and I think healing is not linear and something that you and I talk about this all the time, but I feel like the more you go into deeper alignment, you enter a new threshold. And in that new threshold demands an even more expanded version of yourself. And it's not that there's more fixing to be done, but it's more of this awareness of, okay, like I'm about to enter a new timeline, or I have entered a new timeline, and those old fears and doubts are coming back up. Am I going to act from that place, or am I going to choose the timeline of abundance and wholeness and love and remember that I already have it all? There's nothing to fear. I can choose myself. And so I feel like 2 years ago, it was like this heavy, daunting, dark night of the soul. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom just triggered me. LOL. Okay. Okay, God, I see you. Okay, that just means something really amazing was on the other side, depending on how I react to this. So it's not as painful. It is challenging. It is really uncomfortable. But I think it's because I've let go of so much energetic weight and I really trust my intuition and my soul over anything. And I have such a beautiful relationship with God that I feel like I'm built different now.
I mean, there is so much to unpack in just everything that you just said. But first, I will say too, like, the somatic component of all of it is so powerful. I don't think, like, even personally, like, I had anorexia and went to so much talk therapy, and it's like I could only talk it out so much until I was blue in the face, but there was still that stored, like you mentioned, big T, small t trauma in our bodies. And it's like, releasing that. And I feel like sometimes both of us talk about our journeys of breath work, and it's like I feel like I have a psychedelic experience just by like my breath and like downloads and who's my future daughter and all of these things. And like, I mean, it's just the power of breath that's already within us, and we're already even like we're holding that power within us, so why not release it?
And that was the greatest realization I had from the breathwork journey was I have it all. Like my breath is allowing me to enter and raise myself to a completely different level of consciousness where I see my higher self. I see Jesus in a lot of my journeys. I see previews of the future. I mean, a lot of the life that I'm living right now used to once just live in my visions when I would do breathwork 2 years ago. Or when a vision of me meditate. I had a vision, I remember a year and a half ago, of me at a yoga retreat with my mom teaching. And I was like, where did that come from? And then 3 months later, I got invited to go to a wellness resort in Arizona to teach workshops. Like things like that. It's because you're entering this higher realm of consciousness that is all knowing, right? That has access to that field. So you're receiving the information that you need in that moment to then take the right next step. And so all of that wisdom, that guidance is not coming from anything outside of you. You're just accessing what's already there through your body. And that also really taught me to love my body, right? As someone who had chronic illness, I resented my body. I hated it. I mean, I would every morning subconsciously, I'm like, oh, like, why am I bloated again? Why do I have pain here? Why is my hip hurting? Why do I have sciatic? And it was like this fight nonstop. And then, of course, when you resent your body, you're trying to control it. You're trying to fix it. So then physically, I hate the way that I look. I don't like my short torso. I don't like the way and I think over time, from realizing, the biggest lesson I learned with the chronic pain and the illness, and anyone could say this about themselves, whenever you have a physical symptom, it is your body guiding you back into alignment because you've steered off from it. Each time my body set me a blaring alarm, and hopefully it no longer has to be a glaring alarm, and it's just like you're so tapped in and aligned that your body doesn't need to speak to you that way. But each time my body rang its alarm bells, it was because I was going down a path that wasn't aligned, and my body loved me so much to be like, no, we're not doing this. I'm going to put the alarm bells so that you can steer back into alignment. And I now, even when I have a physical symptom now, I'm like, oh, okay. Thank you, body. What is this about? Oh, okay. You want me to walk away from my publisher and self-publish? Okay. We're going to listen. And then what's on the other side? My body calms down again. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the power of the body is powerful because it knows before our soul even knows. We've talked about this, and for somebody who's listening and they're like, I feel so disconnected from my body and even like my intuition, what is like a small way that you would help steer them back to tuning in?
Great question. I feel like most people don't even know what their own energy feels like because they haven't spent time in stillness to discover that. Now, you can go on a solo trip to, I don't know, Arizona for 3 weeks and understand that and tap into your own energy. That feels very unattainable for many people. My suggestion, and I genuinely think the reason why I have that relationship with my body is because of my morning practice. Now, I meditate and I journal. My morning routine is about an hour, and I love it. It used to be 3 hours. I've cut it down to an hour. It's my sweet spot. The first thing I would suggest is when you wake up, spend 2 minutes in your own bed before you even get up, before you check your phone, 2 minutes, and just do a body scan. and just go from the crown of your head to the bottom of your feet and just feel what your body feels like. Bring your awareness to each part of your body and allow yourself to feel whatever vibration or feeling you want to access. So let's say you're in a season of scarcity, right? You don't know how you're making money, or you just lost a job or whatever, and abundance is really on your mind. What does abundance feel like in your own body? And you could visualize that, right? To you, it might be an abundance of income. For someone else, it could just be an abundance of time, like having space on your calendar. Whatever it is, feel that emotion from within. The first thing I do in the morning is I stretch. I spend 10 minutes and I stretch and I open my body. And again, it's like just spending time in my own field before the outside world comes in. And the craziest part is the more I've done that over the years and like where I am now, it's like, oh, my natural state of being is peace. Like I wake up in peace. I know what peace feels like. I'm the source of that inner peace. And then, of course, the moment I check my phone or I open an email or I read my text, it's like, ugh, this person texted me, or like, damn, I got to respond to that email. And then that's when it gets conflicted. But I always go back to what I felt in the morning because that is my natural state of being. And so to summarize, it's sitting in stillness. And many people avoid it because it's so uncomfortable. We don't want to hear our own thoughts because we're afraid of our own thoughts. But that stillness is where you meet your own soul. And when you know your own energy, you stop outsourcing your power to things outside of you. You start noticing when someone is impacting your energy field, and that's when it becomes easier to walk away from things that aren't aligned because you know what is aligned in your own energy. And so it's the most important thing because it impacts your relationships, your career, your job, everything.
Yeah. It sounds like, how can we attune? How can we truly embody in mind, body, soul? I think of it as like even click, click, click. To be able to like live that out in the world is like our truest essence of ourselves. And as we get older, so much of it, I feel like, goes back to that quote, is like it's so much of unbecoming who we aren't to become who we truly are as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you talk, your faith is so important to you, and how has your relationship with God changed as you've moved through different versions of yourself and even today?
Love this question. I grew up Christian, so I would go to church on Sundays. I did Bible study on the weekends. Faith was in the center of my family. I mean, I grew up with watching my, grandparents praying in the morning and before dinner and at the dinner table, all of those things. So it was such a foundation for me, but I never really had my own personal relationship with God until my suffering, until my chronic illness. And I would pray, but like when I needed something, I would always be like, it wasn't my foundation in my daily life. When I was on the spiritual awakening journey, the dark nights of the soul, that is when I started to really depend on God because everything just felt out of my control at that point. This was before my surgery, and I would pray every day, like, guide me to how to heal this, guide me on the path, show me where to go, what to do, who to speak to, what to say. And that led me on the inner journey that led me to realize and remember that God is not up in the sky. God is not anywhere. It's God is within me. And of course, God is in everything and beyond everything is what I believe now. And over the past year specifically, my entire day is a prayer. I mean, I start off, my first thing I say in the morning is, God, what do you want to experience through me today? Because I'm a vessel of him, right?
Yeah.
I'm an expression of him. We all are. So God, what do you want to experience through me today? And then I still ask that same prayer of like, show me where to go, what to do, so forth. And then whatever happens in my day, I'm like, okay, God, I just got this email. Guide me into making guide me into making the right decision. Or okay, how do I handle this? Or show me the right next step. Or even recently, like about a week ago, I was doing the final edit on my third book and I was stuck on one of these essays. And I was like, God, show me what song I should play that's going to let me get into the flow state. And I just put my playlist on shuffle and landed on a song. And all of a sudden I got into a flow state and like God was speaking through me again, right? It's little things like that. It's not just like, God, bring me the love of my life. It's like, God, align me to the frequency of divine love so I could receive the partner you've had for me. And so I went from depending on God for absolutely everything to then realizing I am the co-creator of my reality and that God's will is me being in my power and expressing that authentic self, right? So it's kind of this dance. It's like I take a step and then I surrender. I take a step and I surrender. And I think over the past few months, once you kind of enter that frequency of wholeness, you then remember your oneness, which is we are not separate from anything. We are not separate from God. God is within me. God is within you. God is within all things. And so when you stop seeing yourself as separate from the divine and you start recognizing it within yourself, then you now have the lens to see everything through that lens of God, right? So then I don't see anyone outside of me as separate. We are all the same divine consciousness, different roles of our awakening. And I think that has made me just fall in love with this human realm, the 3D reality, in a really special and magical way, knowing that this is temporary. You know, when God calls us home, we'll never have access to any of this physical again. And I think now, or in the past, I would kind of wait for miracles. I would wait for the blessing. I would wait for the answer to come. And now I'm like, no, everything is here. Like the moment I pray for something, the reason I prayed for it is because God spoke through me because he wants me to have that thing. And me praying for it was opening the path for me to receive what's always been mine. Like it's kind of woo woo, but I just see there is no gap between a prayer and the answer. There is no separation between you and the divine. And so I think kind of going back to that quote that you said, it's like unbecoming everything to then return to our actual soul's divine essence. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, I mean, so much yes to all of this. And it's like you talk about how, like, the life we're praying for is already here. So, how do we actually live that truth day to day?
When you remember that God is within you, God is the source of all things. God is the source of love, abundance, peace, freedom, joy, all of it. Then what are you seeking? What are you searching for? What else outside of you is going to fill you up when you already have it all? And I know that sounds esoteric, but what I mean by that is you are that source. So instead of waiting for the job to feel purposeful or aligned or abundant, you can tap into that frequency of abundance now in the way that you spend your day. How would abundance act when they, are at the grocery store? Would they be frugal and stingy, or would they be like, no, you know what? I want to celebrate myself. I'm going to buy the $8 chocolate bar. I don't know. What would peace feel like in my body now, knowing that I have access to it in this moment? What would I let go of? What would I stop thinking about? What would I stop trying to control? If I know that I am the source of divine love is within me, that I am an expression of that divine source, then I already have all the love that I seek. Then I don't need anyone. I don't need a partner. Of course, it's beautiful to want someone, but I don't need anything outside of me to feel whole. And that is what wholeness means. It's not spiritually bypassing, it's realizing that you, in all of your messiness, all of your imperfections, all of your strengths and your shortcomings, are authentically you, and that is the privilege. The privilege of life is just being your authentic self and then expressing that authentic self. And so when I say that the prayer is here, it's like this is it. God is not in the future, God is not in the past, God is in the present moment. So then why are we instead of outsourcing that joy or that love or that freedom to a future moment that might not even happen, how can we tap into that now?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that just allows you to celebrate where you are, because I know each of us, whoever is listening, you are standing in a moment in time that was once a dream of yours or a prayer of yours. Maybe not everything in your life is perfect, but I can assure you that something that you have in your life right now, you did not have a year ago, 5 years ago, that you would have killed to have. And so knowing that you've arrived here with this blessing, just imagine what happens when you align yourself to the frequency of that which you seek or want. That's when it's going to come to you, because you are at an energetic vibration and match for it. So the work then is to embody that higher consciousness, that higher self in each moment, so that those miracles and blessings flow towards you and you receive them rather than forcing them to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's like that. It's that true embodiment to have that energy, and that's what I think your third book. I mean, I've gotten like snippets of it, but it's so powerful because it's like also honoring when. I mean, the title is When Nothing Makes Sense, finding God in the gap between the prayer and the answers. So how are we okay in this gray area? How do we live and have faith in that, like, waiting and like acceptance of the pause, being like, God, where are you?
Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you brought this up, because the reason why I wrote this book is because nothing in my life made sense. So I'm now speaking from the aftermath, right? And I'm still there's many parts of my life that are still question marks. I got laid off a month and a half ago, and I'm still figuring out, like, okay, well, how do I really want to spend my time and share my gifts and share my light and serve and all those things? So there's still many question marks. I don't have everything in my life figured out, and I will never have everything figured out. I don't ever want to be in that place, right?
Yeah,
The
you're
reason
one of
why
the wisest souls that's 29 and still becoming.
still learning and expanding. The reason why I wrote this book was because there was never a manual that was like, this is what's happening, and this is how to move through it, and this is what to remember. Now, the most important book in my life is the Bible. It lives rent free in my head. Jesus is the North Star for all of us, right? An embodiment of God in human form, of how to love, how to serve, how to trust, how to maintain faith. And so whenever I read the Gospels and I learn about Jesus, like, that is the source of so much inspiration, and it always brings me peace, right? Because Jesus was kind of showing us like how God speaks in human form, which is
Mm-hmm.
love and
Mm-hmm.
compassion and grace and forgiveness, all of that. However, when you read the Bible, it doesn't tell you what is happening when you lose your job, or it doesn't tell you why someone came into your life that you thought was the love of your life and it was stripped from you in a few weeks. No one tells you in the Bible, like, this is what's really happening, or this is how to maintain certainty, or this is what's going on behind the scenes. And so this book was really like, God, here are all of my questions. Let's answer it together. And so I went through a roller coaster of a year. 2025 was the hardest years of my life. Truly,
Mm-hmm.
it was like rock bottom after up level, peak. I made it to, like, oh shit, no, I didn't. And it was like a roller coaster. It was beautiful in so many ways, but it was really heavy. And so this book was really everything that I learned in the past year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about maintaining faith, even when nothing in your life gives you a reason to have faith. It's
Mm-hmm.
about depending on God and finding God within you and remembering that you already have it all. And it's an essay book, so it's about all different stages of that awakening journey. The first stage is that disruption, when, like, your life feels like a demolished construction site, and your relationships are strained, and your toxic partner, and your
Mm-hmm.
health is declining, and your job is, you know, pissing you off. And then it's like, okay, so let's go into the awakening stage. And that's when you kind of start letting go of everything that isn't you, the rewiring the belief system and uncovering the truth of who you really are. And then once you clear out that space, that's when you kind of remember and can co-create the reality you want to live. And so this is a book where it's not telling everyone the answers, because this is my truth, right? This is my lived experience, my relationship with God. This is everything I've discovered. So I'm not telling you how to live your life or what the truth is. I'm telling you, this is what I experienced and this is what I discovered, and look at where it brought me. May it lead you to your own knowing, to your own soul, to guide you to discover your own truth. And it's really a companionship to just be like, look, I know your life does not make sense. I know you want to give up. I know you want to resent God and you're angry with God and yada, yada, yada. But trust me, I'm right there with you. And I'm not sharing this as someone who is like on the other side and is above or beyond everyone. It's like, guys, I get it. Like, it's hard and it sucks. And trust me, I yelled at God many times last year and I said, I'm angry with you. And, but it was also the most magical adventure that brought me here. And I'm so honored that I get to write a book that I wish I could have handed my past selves and just be like, I know you want to end it, but trust me, on the other side is so much beauty and light. So I don't even know if that answered your question. I just went on a tangent.
No, it does. I mean, it's the truth of who you are, and it's the beautiful train of thought that I feel like I get to experience. And I feel like 2025 was a freaking year like no other, and I'm so glad that you were divinely placed in my life. And it's also like, it's all of those, it's about what we see too, because I mean, it's like another quote, but it's like when you shift the way you see things, the things you see start to change. And it's like, what are all of these God winks and breadcrumbs that are in my life, and those synchronicities that might seem like the small things, but they're actually the big things, because hindsight is 2020. Yeah.
And I do think, like, once you're this tapped in and you start noticing those God winks, you kind of connect the dots as you're walking on the path. You're like, huh, isn't that interesting? I prayed the other day to, God, I really want to use my voice more. Huh, that's so crazy that Zoe asked me to be on her podcast. Like, I'm making that up, but like, you start to connect the dots of how your prayers are really being answered in real time. That was kind of what I was alluding to before, of like, you're standing in the prayer. And honestly, there's, like I mentioned, there's a lot of things in my life that don't make sense yet. And as I was meditating the other day, the sign that I received was like, when it all begins to make sense. And I had this really beautiful miracle blessing yesterday. And I was like, oh, that's what it was about. Huh. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that and last week was a lot of energetic cleansing, like getting rid of everything that was no longer aligned to clear space. And I was like, oh, that's why that was kept popping up in my meditations. That's why I had to explore that. That's why I had to go through that fear. And so it doesn't ever look the way that you think it's going to look, but it always is for your highest good. And the more you tune into yourself with those wings, the more you're like, wait, like, why am I not asking for what I really want? Like, even today, I was like, God, I'm really in the mood to just like travel to Europe. Like, I want to go in like the next few months. Can we make that happen? So I'm like, I don't know. And even the other day, I was like thinking to myself, I didn't even pray this out loud, but I was like, I really want to do like a photo shoot in my apartment for this book.
Yeah.
And then yesterday I got an email from this girl that like has a beauty brand that I've like connected with over the years. And she's like, we started this new series of Harmony in Homes, or I don't even know what it was, but she's like, would love to have you as the next feature. We would come to your house. We would do a photo shoot in your space. We could also take headshots if you need them. I'm like, what? This is Isn't that
What a
crazy?
gift. What a gift. It's so funny because you say these things are just all happening, but I also know you to know that you've planted the seeds. Like, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, that's funny. I'm making it up to share my voice more. But no, you want to share your voice more, and the world needs more of it. And you're like, oh, I just was like, I want to do photos in my apartment. You've been wanting to do that for a while.
Yes.
It's coming to life.
And here's, okay, this is where I'm going to like try to give everyone a brain blast, right? Okay.
We're here for
So
it.
I thought about the home photo shoot thing like 3 days ago. Okay. I was like, I mean, I've like thought about that for months, but like I seriously started to think about it for my upcoming book, and I started to visualize like the energy and whatever. Okay. So then I was like thinking, I was like, like I would really love that. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? Right. Then a couple days later, I got an email in my inbox of this girl offering to do this. She wants to partner with me. She had the idea in her mind many, many weeks before it landed in mine. So it was like God planted that thought in my head because it was already coming. And what did that all do? It made me fall more in love with my life, myself, and God. So it's like when you ask yourself, why do I have this desire? Where did that desire come from? You start to realize that none of it is a coincidence. It is your soul tapped into that frequency of God, giving you those nudges to guide you into doing the thing that your soul came here to do. Because at the end of the day, God's will is for you to live the most abundant, peaceful, joyful, happy life ever in whatever way you want it. So the reason why you want certain things is because it's already yours on the timeline.
Yeah.
So if it's already on the timeline, then matching the frequency of that abundance, kind of like what I was saying before, of like, I already have it all, and I'm already being held, I'm already being guided, I'm already being taken care of, I'm abundant, I'm magnetic, I'm whole. That's when those things come in, and it's, you receive it. You don't even seek it. Like, I just said, like, oh, I really want to, so now I'm like, okay, I want to go to Europe. Like, who, in what way is that going to manifest?
Well, I mean, it's the synchronicities, and I truly believe like we have desires planted on our heart for a reason too.
Yeah.
And so we talk about like quantum leaps and timeline shifts all the time. For people who don't know what that means, what does that even mean?
I think it's like I don't really know how to describe it. I think it's just jumping to a different frequency, elevating yourself to a different frequency. And on that timeline, you're operating in a new way. So when I got laid off from my corporate job, the timeline that I was on was half alignment, half not. Like, I was performing at work, but I was living in alignment with my soul's mission, with my business and my writing and my all that stuff. So I was half aligned, half not. And then when my job was stripped from me and I got laid off, suddenly I jumped to a different timeline that was pure alignment. That doesn't mean every second of the day I'm operating in alignment. I'm human, but I'm on a completely different timeline, and I can never go back to ever performing the way that I once did. Because that now does not feel safe. That felt safe to me. Playing small used to be safe, right? That felt secure. Now, to me, playing small feels so uncomfortable. Like, I can't even remember, like, I can't even fathom how I even had, I mean, I understand why I did, but I can't ever fathom having the fear of being seen ever again, because I know who I am now. I will never perform for approval, because my authenticity is what's going to lead to the miracles that I seek. Performance is not going to get me far. Authenticity is going to take me places that shrinking myself never would have, right? So, and I think we've all experienced this, right? Like, I think this is a really big one with relationships. Like, the moment you're like, you know what, I'm putting up a boundary in this relationship, you elevated your frequency. And so what happened, that person kind of ghosts you, or the relationship ends, or something happens that you can never go back to the way that friendship was because you elevated. And when you elevate your frequency, you cannot be a match towards something that you can't be attracted to something that you no longer are. So we are constantly attracting where our subconscious mind is and the frequency we're putting out. So if you're putting out, not good enough, subconsciously, even if you're telling your affirmations every morning, like, oh, I'm lovable, but if you subconsciously believe that you are not enough, then you are going to attract partners that validate that belief that you are not enough, right? And you're going to constantly need to prove to them, but then you feel small. But each time you elevate, you cannot, when you go from not enough to I am whole, you cannot attract people that are operating on that lower frequency. You won't even, you can't. Like, I remember when I was first doing TBM and I was starting to elevate, right? I was starting to release my subconscious beliefs. I would go to a bar and I would be like, there's so many people here. Why is no one coming up to me? But then all these guys are going up to all these other girls. Like, and we're not that, like, everyone here is pretty. Like, it's not about looks. Like, what is it? Is it my energy? Like, am I not? What the heck is happening? And then I just realized everyone in this bar is operating on a really low frequency. Of course, I'm not going to be attracted to any of these people and they're not going to be attracted to me. It won't be an energetic match. So that is what, to me, it means to like quantum leap, to take a timeline jump, to shift into a whole new, and once you do that, you literally cannot go back to the way things once were.
Yeah, and it sounds like expanding to our, like, how can we make decisions from the highest version of ourselves, and the collapsing timeline piece of it too is like those triggers and those tests will come up, but it's like those will collapse to be even shorter, to be like, oh, okay, this is like the intuitive nudge forward, or this is like in alignment with my highest self. And like we've talked about so much too, is like we even elevate when we think about like what decision would my highest self make in this situation, as well, that it seems like so small, but it's also like, oh, okay, how can I go back to my embodied self, my wholeness, to make decisions of like what is that one right next step that I'm going to take from this place.
Yes, absolutely. That is a shortcut towards maintaining that high frequency, is like, what would my higher self do in this moment? However, I also think it's when I think of my own higher self, and I think it's really important to get clear of like, okay, what is the energy of my higher self? And my higher self, when she gets triggered, she feels that trigger. She doesn't bypass it. So now, like, if I get triggered and my mom or my dad or my brother, whatever, says something to me and it triggers me, I'm like, okay, go to Spotify, put on Bon Iver, lay in a fetal position, and let's cry it out. And I feel what that emotion is, and then I sit in that silence, and I pray, and I say, God, what are you trying to teach me with this? What am I being guided to learn? And I sit in that silence, and I feel that question in my body, and I swear, like, within minutes, it's like something gets dropped in my mind, and it's like, oh, this is what this is this is why I got triggered. Huh. That's interesting. And and sometimes that process takes a couple days, sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes months, sometimes it takes an hour, right? It depends. But when I think of my higher self, it's not that she's perfect. It's not that she avoids emotion. It's that she's embracing her humanity and embraces all aspects of the human experience. And I think for a really long time, I believed like the goal where you arrive is like, no more pain. And it's like, no, we're meant to experience suffering. We're humans. Now, the question though is like, how can we avoid unnecessary suffering, right? How can we avoid our mind doing gymnastics that doesn't serve us? How can we avoid staying too long in the wrong relationship that is just like unnecessarily bringing us pain, right? So when the question of like, what would my higher self do in this moment, it always comes back to love. Like, how can I offer myself more love? How can I see this person with more love and light? And so that's the shortcut. And then you kind of stop asking yourself that question as often, because that then becomes the way you live, which is the embodiment of it.
And how do you tune in to both that higher self and God to know, like, okay, this is like the next step that I'm going to take?
The way that I see it is like my higher self is the how do I say this? Like the pure expression of God in my human form, or my form.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like the Christ consciousness, like the Christ consciousness for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of see it as like my higher self is like where God and I are no longer two. We're not separate. So
Mm-hmm.
can I embody that? The goal is to embody that as much as I can. But
Yeah.
again, I'm human. I have my shortcomings. I get pissed off. Things trigger
Mm-hmm.
me. I have a short temper. I'm really stubborn. And like, I like doing things on my way. I want my freedom. I want my
Mm-hmm.
sovereignty. And so it's like, how can I embody that as much as I can?
Mm-hmm. Well, can you help us get to know your highest self? What is she like?
Oh, she is very like laid back, just like sits at the table, so calm, so pure, so unbothered, very graceful, very elegant, timeless,
Mm-hmm.
wise but silly. That was like a massive thing, was doing a lot of the to be magnetic work and really tapping into my inner child, was that my
Mm-hmm.
authentic self is so silly and wonky and
Mm-hmm.
weird and playful. And so when I think of my higher self, she doesn't take herself or life too seriously. Like she
Mm-hmm.
laughs, she's giddy, she finds joy when shit hits the fan, right? And she's just so grounded in herself, in
Mm-hmm.
faith, in God. And I just, whenever I visualize her, I just picture her wearing like a linen, like Doan dress, like running through a field with like her hair flowing and tan and in the French countryside.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. What's funny, because when you even, if somebody is listening, I could even see your posture shift and you
Yeah.
light up when you start talking about your highest self. Like, she is coming through. She is
Yeah.
here now.
I know my voice changed when I did that. That was weird.
Uh-huh. And you just like relaxed into your seat.
Yeah. And that's when I meditate on the mornings, I really like feel that energy. I'm like, what does she feel like? And then I try to embody that throughout the rest of the day
Mm-hmm.
until something happens that I forget. And then it's like, no. Go back. So it's
Mm-hmm.
that bounce back rate, I think, that over time gets shorter and shorter and shorter. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
What does your higher self feel like?
My higher self wears linen too. I don't know if linen has like a high vibe. Uh, I think it literally does. Like, I was listening to somebody and they were like, linen and wool have the highest vibration, and like polyester workout clothes, like, don't.
I think linen, I feel like you could agree to this. Linen to me feels very feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that I need that like flowiness
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
after years of being so in the masculine force push energy. I'm like, no. I want to be like a fairy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to like use my wings.
Somebody the other day, like, I took it as a big compliment. They're like, talking to you is like having the most beautiful candle on, and just like everything is like linen. I'm like, I'll take that as a compliment, because that's such a vibe, and like that is my house to a T, because
Yeah.
I'm like, let me embody my highest self. But to your question, I feel like my highest self is like, she's just like, she loves just like overlooking the ocean on top of like a mountain, is so just like carefree. Everybody just like is magnetized. It's so funny because
Mm.
I was with my mom the other day and she's like, do you realize when people see you every time, it's like, oh, Zoe, like they're so excited and surprised. I'm like, what if I woke up every single day so excited to be like, oh my God, I get to spend another day with myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
she has like such chill, grounded energy and just like fully trusting and being like, let's try it, let's travel. Like, of course, like people are attracted to me, and like, yes, I need time and stillness more than being overdoing all of the time, too.
Yeah, that's another thing. When I think of my higher self too, it's like there's less doing and just more following joy, and the output that comes from her following joy is how she serves and shares her light,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example, even just going back to the travel thing, right? Even before earlier today, I was doing the Abundant Life TBM DI,
Mm-hmm.
and I started to think about, okay, what do I want to create moving forward? Like, how do I want to share my art in different ways and whatnot? And when I first started my Instagram page in 2020, it first was a mood board that was all about travel and like really beautiful interior design that represented the energy of the stillness and the groundedness, the earthy, the ethereal that I wanted to evoke with my art, right? And my
Mm-hmm.
words. And then once I started publishing books, like it then kind of transferred into, okay, no more mood board. Like I got to sell books here. So then it kind of just became that. And then even now recently, now that I've left my job, I'm like trying to think about like different ways to use my voice. And I want to show videos of me speaking more. And I'm playing around with reels and trying to expand my audience, like kind again, like the business brain. And today when I was doing the Abundant Life, one of the questions in that was like, if you had an infinite supply of money, like what would you do? And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, like I wouldn't and like, why do you want that? Why do
Yeah.
you want infinite amount of money? And it was because I don't want to think about it, because when I think about money, I'm blocking my soul from sharing its light, and that's what I want to do, and I want to travel, I want to meet people. And then I had this like really brilliant podcast idea that came
Mm-hmm.
to me, and then I started to think about, I saw my higher self and I was like, what do you want me to start creating? And she literally was like, start posting interior travel stuff again. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let your page be a reflection of the world you want to live in. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, it used to be that, but now it's just like selling books. And it just kind of got me excited again, because it's like, yeah, if I want to travel to all these beautiful places and I want to work with these hotels, let's say, I don't know, and be a travel writer, like that was also a
Mm-hmm.
part of my dream. It's like, well, then what energy am I putting out right now? That's not that. So it just kind of got me excited again. And it's like following the breadcrumbs, right? Like, why did I suddenly
Mm-hmm.
pray to travel? And then why did this nudge come in this meditation that's all about abundance? And it's like all about embodying that authentic self. And I kind of lost that authenticity for a little bit, and that's what I mean of like, you'll fall back sometimes, and each time you up level, it demands a more purified version of yourself for a new threshold. And so the
Mm-hmm.
work never ends, but it's like, it kind of is like, how can I get back into alignment quicker each time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I'll be your travel buddy. How do you balance, like, as somebody who's so intentional, like balance the being overdoing or in both?
I'm honestly still navigating that. I really do base it off my energy of the day. I'm also a projector, as you are.
Yes.
We don't have that much energy to exert, and I will say, I have noticed this is the pattern for me, where if I take a day to like really rest, whether that's rotting on my couch or just like running errands and like not thinking about any of my business or purpose or mission or light, whatever, or exploring New York City, hanging out with friends, and I really allow myself to just be, the next day, all of these new ideas come in to my mind, like just kind of dropped in.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen this pattern where like when I rest, I receive so much more, but this is co-creation. I'm not going to sit on my ass, right? Like I need to actually show up every day. So I really just check in with myself. If like there are days where I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to crush this to-do list. I'm going to do this. I'm going to create that. I'm going to da 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 da. And I do it and I feel great. And then there are days where I'm like, even posting a fucking Instagram story right now feels so daunting. Fuck it. Like, I'm not doing it. Like, I don't care that much. And
Mm-hmm.
and even I've noticed on my TikTok, like before I lost my job, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to post every day and da da da. And I couldn't do it. I didn't have the capacity to do that. And even now, I just kind of post when I feel like posting, and I'll just, oh my God, I have a thought. Let me record it. And those are the ones that go viral without me even trying to
Mm-hmm.
go viral.
Mm-hmm.
So I just really base it on how I feel every day. And that's why that practice I mentioned in the beginning of like, what is my energy today? Do I have
Mm-hmm.
space to output, or do I need space to just be inspired or just to be? Um, and I think too, I know when I'm forcing and pushing and doing too much, when I get pelvic symptoms, like that's my Achilles
Mm-hmm.
heel. And I just don't want to have those symptoms anymore. So I'm like, oh my gosh, let's take a break. My body is telling me to take a break. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a constant learning curve, and like I don't have that figured out. I think I'm just kind of taking it day by day.
Yeah. Yes to this being a year of no more forcing and letting things truly just flow too.
Yeah. And that's
Um,
the feminine.
mhm. Yeah. Well, in society too, it's like we are trained to live just more so in the masculine more than anything as well.
Yeah.
I also want to touch on voice notes. They're such a love language. Why do you think that they're such a special form of communicating?
Oh my gosh. Voice messages. I don't love texting. To be honest, I'm really lazy, and that's part of it. Like, I just don't have the capacity to type. I love voice messages, and I prefer them over phone calls because I'm someone where I need to protect my energy, right? And if I'm doing that, I want people to also learn how to protect their energy. And so when I'm sending a voice message, not only do I get to show my enthusiasm, my joy, be really human in that moment, but I'm allowing you to respond when you are ready and willing and capable and have the capacity to respond back to me. And
Mhm.
so I love phone calls, but it's like we both have to be in the right headspace to have that be a beautiful phone call. And let's be real, I feel like phone calls always come at the most like inconvenient moment. It's like right when you're laying down on the couch putting on Netflix, it's like mom calling, and you're like, oh, like really? Like I was just about, and then you have like a 20-minute phone call, and it's like she's asking you to do a million things, and you're like, oh my God. Whereas voice messages, it's like I'm sharing something that I'm so giddy about, or I'm going through something and I need your expansion,
Mhm.
or it's like I feel so alone in this. Like, do you feel this too? And it just happens to be, I feel like you and I are like, we're always on the same page about things, that it happens to be this beautiful dance back and forth. But I love hearing your voice because I just feel the love. Like I hear the love, I hear the joy, I feel the vibrancy of it, and it just really elevates my energy. It's frequency, right? Just like
Mhm.
music is frequency. Hearing your voice just kind of elevates it. So I'm such a voice note girly, and I love it.
Yeah, well, same. I love them because, well, because you can feel the energy coming through, and because that person is fully able to process, and I'm able to fully
Yeah.
process without being
Yes.
like, oh my God, I'm gonna be interrupted. But like, I usually like respond while I'm walking because I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
processing like everything that you said, and then here is like what's coming up for me. And then it's funny because like my family knows that if they call me like later at night, I'm like, it's past my talking window. Like, you cannot guarantee a good conversation right now if that's what you're looking for. Uh, yeah.
That's a great way to put it too, about processing. And we go on so many tangents that like I need, if I'm on a phone call with you, we're talking about like 10 million things, and then we talk about, like, we forget to talk about the things that we meant to talk about. So we're the, oh my God. I was just about to say with the podcast,
Well, I mean, they are long.
or their hours or 10-minute podcast. Yeah. It allows you to take a beat, process it, and then speak like, from a grounded place. I think that's it too. Like, I feel like when I really listen to your voice messages and I decide, okay, I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to go on a walk and I'm going to respond from a grounded place, whether you need help with something or you just need a reminder or you need encouragement or you just need someone to celebrate something with you with. Like, I'm doing it from a place of groundedness rather than reaction, if that makes sense.
Anybody listening, this is your permission slip to go voice note your friend right now.
Yeah. And
They
send them this
probably need
podcast
it as much as you need it too. So as we wrap up, if someone is in the middle of a timeline shift or feeling crunchiness before there's clarity, what do you want to remind them of today?
Just laugh about how silly all of your worries and problems are. Like, when you take 10 steps back and you're like, oh my God, I'm still single. Oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to make money. Oh my God, I don't know. Oh my God, whatever. It's like, this is actually really funny. Like, I have no idea what's happening in my life right now. This is so funny. Isn't that so silly that I'm worried about meeting the love of my life that I already know I have at some point? Isn't this so silly that I'm worried about how I'm going to make money when I've decided to go all in on my passion and my purpose? Isn't that so silly? Isn't it so silly that this person is triggering me? Like, just find joy and laugh about it because you're going to laugh about it someday. Like, let's be real. In 6 months, when everything actually makes sense and you're living the reality that you want to live in, you're going to look back on this moment. You're going to be like, oh my God, like TBT to when I was so stressed out about money. Now I'm making 6 figures doing what I love. And you're going to laugh about it. So instead of laughing about it in 6 months, like laugh about it today. And I'm not saying like, look, we live in the human realm. The economy is not great right now. Trust me, I get it. Like, I understand the realities of life, but just find a little bit more humor in it because everything is going to unfold in divine timing in a way that is beyond your imagination. It's going to be so much bigger. And so even if you use your biggest ounce of imagination, it's not going to unfold the way that you want, but it is going to unfold in a really, really beautiful way. So that would be my reminder. And I'll just kind of give you an example, even about the home photo shoot thing of the girl who reached out to me. Funny enough, she owns a skincare brand and she had gifted me her products about 1.5 years ago and I never used them. They were tucked in my bathroom cabinet and I came across them 3 days ago, all body care products. And my winter skin is not great. And so I started using her products again for the past few days. And then that's when I got her email.
Oh
And
my
so
gosh.
the reason why it felt so magical was because it's not even just about me. It's about her baby, her business, her purpose. And so that's what I mean, that it'll come in a way that you can't even try to make up in your head. It's just going to be so much infinitely better. And so maintain faith and certainty in that and just laugh about the silly little problems that you have right now that are absolutely going to get resolved in the near future.
Wow, you can't make that up.
Right? That's what I mean.
Yeah. So where can listeners read your work, follow along, and stay connected as your next book unfolds?
So you could follow me on Instagram, ICIETNU. My Substack is my name, so Karin Hadadan at substack.com. You could buy both of my books, Beauty in the Stillness and The Unlimited Power Within You, on Amazon. And then my upcoming book, When Nothing Makes Sense, will be self-published on Amazon exclusively, I think in March or end of February. TBD. Divine timing will reveal that. But follow me on Instagram. That's where you can find all my links. I'm also on TikTok. It's my name. That's where you'll see my wonky, silly self. And yeah, welcome to my world if it feels aligned.
Perfect. Well, we'll add all of the links, all the things in the show notes. And thank you so much for being on. This was so fun.
Thank you, Zoe, for giving me the space. I am so grateful for you. And I'm so grateful that a year ago, no one showed up to the session that I was going to do because that's when we became friends.
You're all in divine timing.
All in divine timing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything happens for a reason. I'm so grateful for you.
I'm so grateful for you too. Thank you for tuning in to the We Shine Well podcast. If today's conversation lit something up in you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend, leave us a review, and dive deeper each week by subscribing to our Substack in the show notes to interact with guests and discover more resources to expand you. Until next time, keep trusting your right next step and keep shining, my friend.